Hello, my name is Sylvester Carl Henderson, and I am the CEO of Professor for Life Incorporated. And I am so honored today to be able to interview Professor Andre Minkins. He is a professor of theater from Winston Salem State University. I want to say welcome, Professor Minkins.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here. I've enjoyed the podcast I've been able to see, and looking forward to talking with you on this officially on this format.
That's right. Professor Minkins, can you introduce yourself to our digital media academic world and let everybody know where did you grow up? Please share your academic journey and where did you attend college?
So, okay, I'm Andre Minkins, and I have been a student of the North and the South, a product of this, I should say, of the North and the South. Started out with my family. My dad traveled around. We were in Rochester and Boston and New Jersey, and then ended up down in North Carolina to go to school. For the most part, even though I started school up north. But so I'm a product of both worlds. And so Henderson, North Carolina is where I did a lot of my growing up and learning how to be who I am today. But New York, and I bring New York in there, and New Jersey is because that's where I was bitten first by the performing bug. I didn't know it was going to be theater, even though theater was fascinating to me. Going to the Apollo to see different acts was so in my house we were singers, so I thought maybe I was going to be a singer, maybe, and I pursued that but I found myself a lot more going towards I really like doing this when I found the theater. And music was something I knew I could do, but theater was something I said I had to do, once I found it. So, and the fortunate good thing is that I could combine theater and music and do musical theater, even though primarily where I am now, we're more, straight dramatic theater, being able to throw in a few musicals here and there. But yeah, so it's been a great journey. I'm at Winston Salem State University, like you said. I started out teaching after I graduated from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro with my MFA and Masters of Fine Arts in Acting and Directing. And so I started out teaching first, and then I took some time off to tour with a play called Camp Logan by Celeste Bedford Walker, and we won an Image Award along the way as an ensemble, and the playwright won one as well. We toured the country, performing at military installations and educational institutions and artistic organizations that knew about the story, wanted to have us in, whether it was for Black History Month, diversity, whatever the occasion was. And so I got a chance to tour the country, see the country that way, and came back to theater, teaching full time once that tour began to wane and slow down a little bit.
Now, how long, Professor Minkins, have you been at Winston Salem University now?
It's going to be 18 years coming up. I started in 2008, so yeah, so so 25, 26 is going to be 18 years.
Wow, that's great. Can you please describe your work and obligations as a professor of theater? How many students are you responsible for during a typical week, and what are some of the things that you do besides put on wonderful productions?
Well, I thank you for saying that. But yes, because I'm like a coordinator for whatever happens at this particular university. There used to be two of us at the university in drama, and now there's just one. And so my responsibilities, unfortunately, because of my training at in high school and in college, I'm able to do technical theater when I need to, when I have to, and as being a one-person drama production team, I have to do it all. And being on the road with Camp Logan helped me also to see different things, the underside and technical side of putting on a show, and being with other plays and whatnot, directing the shows that I've directed. I've had to have that knowledge as well. So my responsibility primarily, especially for a institution with no theater major, we have a minor. So my goal is to take the diamonds and the roughs and say, look, you can do this full time if you really wanted to. I know you didn't come here to do theater, but I can see you have a passion for it. You have a love for it. You signed up for the acting class for some reason. You signed up for intro to drama for some reason. And a lot of them are searching. They know they can't go to their parents and say, I want to major in theater, because you're the first one to go to college. You gonna major in theater? Are you kidding me? And so I'm able to facilitate the minor in ways that allow them to have options when they get out. Even if they get a degree to their mama and their daddy and say, look, I did the degree thing, now I'm going out to pursue, and Professor Minkins got me. So whether it's grad school or going straight into television, film, or theater, I try to prepare them for the entire world, the entire gamut of the industry, including teaching, if that's what they want to do. Now, I love teaching, even though I would be the first to tell you that wasn't in my plans. And I've been out there performing and touring with theater as an actor. So I've had all of those experiences, and I love it. I wanted to have had more experiences in television and film, but I'm not crying about it. But and I still have some time left to do that. And that time comes when I decide, I've put in enough years in educational theater. Now I want to get on stage myself. So on television.
You know what? You are a young man. I'm going to be 65 this year, and so you are definitely a young man. You got plenty of time.
Trying to be. So now, I love the fact that I touch students from all different majors, right? They could be, at my school, there's a strong emphasis on nursing. We have a strong business, political science, or criminal justice, as they call it. I get all of those students, and they use my class for the extra classes that they need to fill out their whole curriculum, and to fulfill all of their electives and whatnot. So I get them, and they come to me and they say, Doc, they say, well, I'm just taking this class. It's not related to anything that I do. And I'm like, oh, really? So my responsibility is to connect the arts in the minds of that student that doesn't realize, and even an administrator or a colleague who doesn't think or understand that the arts belong in the higher institutions, and that each one of them, music, is great for math, and other things. Theater is great for memory and being able to communicate and being able to, do other things where you can, put 1 + 1 = 2, but go with the logic of how to create that equation, especially if you're on the technical side of theater.
That's right.
Reading, reading out loud. We don't practice doing that hardly anymore. So being able to read out loud, the music is great for that too, because you have to enunciate all. I can see you getting them to enunciate all these syllables in songs, right? And so these skills of the arts, visual arts and performing arts, plays in higher education, I think is very important. So I spend a lot of time, on my soapbox about that. And even if they're going to be a great nurse, you're even a better nurse if you have a better bedside manner. You understand, how to walk in somebody's shoes and be able to be empathetic, which is what theater really is about. Being able to be able to understand the condition of human beings, and put yourself in somebody else's place.
Thank you. Can you share your work? You're talking about higher education advocacy and how you advocate for the arts. Can you share information about your work as, I would just say, a creative social advocate for communities of color at your school and outside the school in the general community?
Yes, I was very fortunate to have African American professors that mentored me in theater, even though I was at a predominantly white institution. And I was also introduced to Larry Leon Hamlin, who was like the father of Black theater festival and gathering and reunion. And so having been an early on a participant in the International Black Theater Festival, it's helped me to also understand as a community that we need each other, and we can do so much more for the artists if we are connected to one another. And so yeah, my advocacy goes, like you said, beyond the institutional walls, but I also like to bring people in and say, look, yeah, you can do this, you have the talent to do it, but I also want you to, get trained, come on in and let us help you understand what the training looks like, how to certify you, almost like, people who do other, like you work on cars or refrigeration, you have to get a certification, right? If you're a doctor, you have to go to med school and get that certification, get that degree. And so I try to help students to realize that for the arts, and I also have to talk to our colleagues about why we need budgets and why we have to have money to do what we do. And if we don't get it, sometimes we're creative enough to do what we need to do, and we love it enough, love our students enough to make it a student-centered. If they want to do it, I'm going to find a way for them to do it. If they say, Mr. Minkins, I want to do Dream Girls, I'm going to find a way to do it if we have the commitment, because the process of getting any show up requires some time and sacrifice.
Wow. You know what? I can tell that you are very enthralled about what you do and that you're very committed. Tell me, how did your advocacy support the overall mission of Winston Salem State University?
Well, most institutions have a motto. Ours is "Depart to Serve," and I believe that if you come across any of my courses, the core of theater for me is the fact that it is a bridge to any other part of life. If you're going to be, whatever you're going to be, a doctor, a politician, whatever you're going to be, you need to understand, how people work. How do people think? How do they respond to different things? And so my way of using the arts to help them to open up their minds while they're in my classes, to talk about not only theater, but how theater relates to their lives, the things that they've done growing up, how it helps you to connect to the world. We study theater is the study of people, right? So if you're in psychology, if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, understanding how people work and how to help a person who might be hurting. They're not hurting. They don't have an attitude just because they have an attitude. There's something going on. They're responding to some stimuli in life that's helped them, that's hurt them, and therefore they're going to turn around and hurt somebody else.
Wow.
So I try to approach it from that standpoint, to prepare and equip students to understand how life works. You're not going to be a star overnight for those who stay in the arts, and you're not going to be the town's #1 doctor overnight. So how do you travail? How do you continue to push forward? And all along the way, not doing it just for the money, but you're doing it because you're there to help people, depart to serve. You want to serve your community, your state, your country, the world.
Wow. Professor Minkins, with the MFA, a Master of the Fine Arts, that's like a doctorate degree in theater. Who influenced you to want to become an academic professor?
Well, Dr. Betty Jean Jones, God rest her soul, was one of my main influences that helped me to realize that I could do this professionally. I didn't understand that I could go to grad school. You understand, when I went to college, I did have a Mr. Pierce in my high school saw something in me. He was my English professor, and he was like, I need you to promise me that you're gonna at least do one show for me before you leave. I mean, I'm an athlete. I'm playing football. I'm trying to play other sports, because that's where my head was. I wanted to do all these sports. My family comes from sports. Dad played football. I have a lot of cousins that play football and track, and so a couple of cousins played basketball. So so that's where my head was. And singing, you can sing even if you're an athlete. You can sing. That's not
that's right.
To move over into the theater realm, or even in music, when you start talking about classical music. That's a cultural stretch, for a brother trying to be an athlete, So Mr. Pierce encouraged me. My last football game, after that was over, he said, "You ready now? I want you to do this play for me." So I did the play, and I was like, "Oh, this feels like when the audience is clapping for you, this feels like sports, applauding your efforts, whether you're trying to score on the field or on the court." And so then Dr. Jones found me in college where, I was doing, we were doing all these different things with our Black student organization. We had a troupe that did plays. We had we had a choir, and we had a dance troupe. And I did the choir. And then during the choir rehearsal one time, they said, "Well, we want to do this play. Anybody interested?" And I went and I volunteered, and I did that, and I kind of got bitten by the bug, just for the student side, not to do anything professional. And then Dr. Jones saw us, and she talked to us, and then guided us towards the MFA, guided me towards the MFA. And
wow.
And then she's the one day after rehearsal, she said, "What are you doing today?" I said, "Nothing." She said, "Follow me." We got in the car and drove 30 minutes. And as a college student, that's a big thing. You drive in 30 minutes. If you hadn't, if you're not a person that traveled like that, I travel all over the country driving now. But then, so I drove to Winston-Salem. She introduced me to Larry Hamlin. Marched to the office, said, "Larry, this is Andre. Andre's Larry. I've done all I can do for him," because she's a scholar at a PWI, but now she wanted me to understand really what Black theater was. And so she immersed me, because Larry ran the North Carolina Black Repertory Company, one of the oldest continuous theater companies in the country. And she was like, it was like introducing me to my theater father. She was my theater mother, and so he's standing there looking at me like, "Yeah, okay, Betty Jean," and she leaves us. She leaves us in the room together, and it's like we looking at each other like, "Okay," and then we start up a working relationship, because he was really like a heavy mentor. I mean, he was a brother that you had to dot your I's and cross your T's around him, because he didn't let you, real father figure, didn't let you slack off. And then when he started the festival, not only was he doing, a repertory company of shows during the year, he started a national theater festival that became an international theater festival. God rest his soul, he's passed on as well. But I saw the people that I read about in Dr. Jones's class having done Black theater. I actually got a chance to meet because of the theater festival. I mean, Maya Angelou was down the street at Wake Forest, and she helped him start the festival. And so I'm sitting the first night of the festival, opening night, I'm sitting between Oprah and Maya Angelou.
Oh wow!
Watching the open play. I was like, wow, this was phenomenal. And they got a chance to escort her and Maya to the first press conference, and that was so. I was like a kid in a candy shop. I mean, then other, of our luminaries in theater and television and film, would grace us with their presence over that summer. We do a week in Winston-Salem every other year. And, Angela Bassett used to come in, and, we've spoken with Ozzy and Ruby Dee used to come, God rest their souls, and so many other people whose faces and names you recognize from film, television, and theater.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is quite a background, a wonderful story.
Yeah.
Now, can you, as a noted professor of theater, what have been your most significant theatrical production? And can you please describe why, if there is one that sticks out more than any.
But, being a college professor, as you know, it makes our resumes really thick because every semester we're trying to do projects. And, sometimes in life, if you're a full-time artist, you might do a new show once a year, twice a year. But we're trying to do, okay, I need to do 2 things in the semester, one at the beginning or the middle for homecoming and something at the end for Christmas, baby. So we might end up doing 3 projects in one semester, in 15 weeks. And then second half, we'll do 3 more shows or 2 shows. And so there's a long list of shows that I've done being a college professor, but I really like, I've liked doing both the musicals and the heavy hitting dramas. I think Ruined by Lynn Nottage is one of those dramas that come to mind. Pearl Cleese and some of her plays have come to mind. I've done Color Purple, and but I have to coordinate with the music department because we're not all together in order to do the musical. So Color Purple was one that I really enjoyed doing. We did The Wiz with the music department's help. We're talking, sending singers that were in The Wiz. My Dorothy was Ella Fitzgerald's niece.
Wow. Okay.
Her grandmother was Ella Fitzgerald's sister, so it's like, and she came to the show, and so I'm very fortunate because she actually played Dorothy in high school. And am I going to break the mold? No, I'm not going to make it hard for myself. So I cast her as my Dorothy, and what a wonderful, wonderful show it ended up being. Now we didn't have all the technical support that I would have liked to have had, like building the phenomenal sets, but we get in there and we do what we can do, and still make it a great experience for our students and our audience members. We've done what's something else we've great, we do some of the traditional shows, a lot of some August Wilson plays like Joe Turner, which is about to come to Broadway next year with Taraji and Cedric the Entertainer. So we did that show. Joe Turner's Come and Gone. We did Fences, and the students all played the roles in age. The ones who had to play older, they were aged up, and it was, I thought it was a great show. And again, with a limited set, because you go to Broadway and see Denzel playing Troy, then you see a whole house and trees and backyard. We made a porch happen, and we made a tree happen. But I didn't have the technology to bring a whole tree in like you can in a theater or build a tree. We built a tree out of some material, but yeah. So we felt like we were doing our Broadway thing, our best imitation of Broadway. So there have been some great shows, and like I said, all of the shows have had mothers or fathers crying because they had never seen their child do this, and it's like, yeah, they always told me that they thought they could do it, but now I see they can. Can you help them? Yeah, okay, well, they get their degree in undergrad, whatever that's going to be, and then I try to talk them into going to grad school, getting an MFA, Masters of Fine Arts, auditioning for these grad schools, and if they have listened and if they've worked out the way they're supposed to work out, they actually get the kind of education that will allow them to compete with any theater major from another program, if they've done what they're supposed to do. And I've had about 6 or 7 students that have been able to compete at the grad school level once they got out, even though they had a theater minor. So, and now I have some that call me later. They may have been 10 years out of school. Mr. Minkins, I think I kind of want to, I hear you in my head. I think I want to try this graduate school thing. How's that work again? And so I'll work through it with them. We'll get on Zoom. Zoom has been great, where we can get on Zoom and work out and do monologues. And then I'll get them in a show, get them be an alum and come back and do a show here with us or do a show in the community. And they work themselves right into being able to graduate from schools like, I had a student that graduated from the University of Connecticut. University of Louisville, SCAD in Savannah, and there have been a couple of others that have gone some other places, but it eludes me right now. But those are my, the three notable schools and students that I can recall that are right now competing as actors in the world full time.
Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
At Winston Salem State University, what are the student demographics?
It's probably, I would say, 90% African American students. We have students from other cultures, but it's primarily African American. Well, it might not be 90 anymore because our nursing program is one of the top nursing programs in the state, and in this part of the state. And so you have, a lot of people from other cultures and races who are in our nursing program who make it probably about, I guess, 85, more like 89% African American, because their nursing program you'd be surprised how many. I might have gone to my doctor or to my dentist, and there's somebody said, "Oh, I went to Winston Salem State," and you never would have known they went to Winston Salem State in the medical side, because they can come to campus, get those classes, and not necessarily have to mingle with the total student population because they don't live in the dorms. And not to say that it doesn't happen. We do have our European cousins, students who are living in the dorms, but again, we're probably, I would say, between the high 80s and low 90s% African American. We do have some international students. We do have programs where students might be a foreign exchange from Brazil. We used to have a Brazilian program, foreign exchange. That professor is no longer with the university now, so that program has not been as robust as it had been in that way. But we get all kinds of students, and a lot of first generation students. They're the first in their family to go to college. We have some legacy students whose families have been to college and maybe have gone to Winston Salem State or North Carolina Central, North Carolina A&T State University, and they are continuing the tradition of HBCU attendance in their family. As you know, Chris Paul, his parents met at Winston-Salem State, and even though he played at Wake Forest, he didn't finish and went to the NBA and came back and purposefully finished his degree at Winston-Salem State.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know, I remember that Winston-Salem State University had a very large commitment to students of color, primarily African American descent.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So it's like an historical black college. That's great.
Yes, it is. Over 100 years old. Started out as a teacher's college, and then has morphed into this school that really does really well in technology, or in the STEM programs, in the technology, health services, and in business. And we have a little boast in the music area. A couple of Grammys for our choir in the past, and we've had some really good sports programs over the years, and theater has been a strong component in the community for a long time as well.
Wow. Can you tell us what challenges have you faced as a man of color in higher education generally? Just kind of express. I'm sure. I ain't trying to get you in trouble though, brother.
Well, it all goes back to, and I think if I hadn't been in theater, I would have been maybe in sociology or in the social sciences or anthropology, because I love history, study of human beings, and how we interact culturally and whatnot. And I would say, as an African American male, a lot of students, and I was just looking up these stats because I have two sons, and my father was in my life, but they didn't live together my whole while. But he and I ended up being great friends. But I do have a lot of students who don't know what it's like to have a father in the house at all, period. I mean, some of them don't even know who their fathers are. But I looked at the stats for my son, who, they're going into their own professions and doing their thing. and they're having to deal with being profiled as they drive the streets. You know, and so we've had these discussions. We've talked about these kinds of things where most of their friends didn't have a dad in the home. So, and I looked up the stats just to be accurate. I didn't want to be, a gossiper or, somebody who's just talking off the side of my neck. And I didn't even know you were going to ask me this question. But 73% of African American children are raised without a father. 73% now. And so, and I know I coached AAU basketball for a while. I know there's athletes are still in me, even though I'm an artist. And I started that with my sons. So I wanted to be there with them, helping their head coach however I could, and ended up becoming a head coach myself in AAU. So with sports, my son deals with guys who want to hang out with them because they going home is not the answer for them. They're using sports. Some of them using sports to get away from their neighborhoods, or to be around maleness. Because as a culture, we are a matriarch laden culture. The women are, have done our Black women have done a remarkable job of holding it in the road in the way that we've come up culturally in this country. And it does lend itself to these kinds of things that we deal with as Black males, where when I teach, one of my colleagues who's a professor, who's a female, can tell them, girl, come here right now. Don't come here, right? They can say it like that. I can't say it like that, right? I have to say it in a way where, and then if coming from me, a male, if they don't have a fatherly influence or don't understand fatherly or matriarchal energy, they might misunderstand what I'm doing or how I'm saying it or why I'm saying it, and so sometimes I have to go through editing, making sure that I'm a monitor of my words, but it doesn't. I'm gonna offend a student here or there because of it, because of the cultural dynamics in our communities. So one sister, she wanted to play a certain part, but I was trying to let her down gently. It's like, look, I want you to be able to, but right now you're not. I try to, because we're not theater major. I try to cast people according to their type as they are as people, and then help them to work their way into playing a part that might not be them as a person. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So if I want you to play Juliet, I can't get the girl who's really kind of like our stereotypical sister, right? So I had a sister asked me why, she didn't think she really wanted this part, but I didn't give it to her, and I just had to tell her, in long story short, a little rough around the edges. Let's see if we can get you, to a point where where we see the character and not you. And she was a little bit offended by that, but it so happened to be close to Thanksgiving break, and so when she went home and she came back and she said, "Mr. Minkins, I want to apologize to you." I said, "Why? What happened?" She said, "Yeah, you told me what you told me, and I didn't take it well, because I really wanted to play this part." And she said, "But I watched my mama this holiday, and you were right. You didn't say it how you could have said it." So she appreciated that. But after watching my mama during Thanksgiving, she was like, "Yeah, I see where I got the rough edges from." You see them? So these are learning moments that I try not to offend, but I'm trying to get people to understand, if you're going to play characters, study all of these characters, which makes people like, comedians, like Eddie Murphy, geniuses, in creating character, because they study people. They know they can put on these prosthetics, and you would swear that was a person and not Eddie Murphy playing that person.
That's right.
So I try to get them to understand I'm not a theater snob in the sense where I'm saying you have to get training. The only way to be a good actor is to get training. But I'm saying the best way to be fully rounded as an artist is to get the training. if you really want to max out and having a career and having people really acknowledge you as an artist in ways that you feel like, you know, you're rewarded, that it feels rewarding, is to get the training. And whether it's music, art, you know, we have people that can draw like nobody's business, but go ahead and get that commercial art degree so you understand how to, you know, how to even do more than just use your talent, you know.
So it sounds like what you were saying, one of the challenges that you faced, I know I faced, and still continue to, is the challenge of learning how to use words in such a caring way, but actually trying to be caring but honest, but yet teaching at the same time.
There it is.
And sometimes as a man, especially an African American man, because, you know, as a strong man, you have a certain persona, and regardless of how you say something, even in your greatest effort, someone is going to take it in a manner that it was not intended to be, and that create trouble.
Yeah.
And so that is challenging. I have found over the years that sometimes I realize the best answer is no answer.
Right?
And sometimes when people ask me questions right now, as a very successful man, especially as a man of color, I was talking to someone actually yesterday, and I said, if I say something, they're going to reinterpret it differently than what I said. There's no way around it. So the best thing is to say nothing. African American men are sort of placed in a cage, sometimes at home, sometimes with their children, sometimes if you go to court, sometimes when you go to the bank, you say, how did you interpret that? That's not even what I said. Exactly. But people are ready to attack, you know, and so I commend you for having that inclusive personality that's caring, and that must be very difficult. I'm going to get to my next question, especially as it deals with the current gender movement that you see in college. That has to be, now I'm not asking you to talk about that, but that has to be extremely challenging. Because I had a student, and I can say it, because it's my podcast, and I'm retired.
I'm not retired.
Okay, so I thought it was so difficult because I had a young man to come to me, and it was a transgender fella, or transgender woman. I'm not sure really how to answer it exactly, but he was actually a baritone, and by biology, and he wanted to become a soprano. And so my point was, my cultural response wanted to say one thing, but my academic response was, let's talk about it.
Yeah, that's
and so we went through the whole, even though I knew that this is not gonna happen.
Right.
But I had to go through all of these levels of working with the student, and I couldn't be just clear cut and tell the truth.
Right.
I had to go through this exercise of inclusive care and nurturing and support. So what I did is that I assigned the student to selections. I said, I want to assign you a selection that is what I hear as your biological voice type, and I want to see how you can perhaps adjust it. I said, you know, one of the challenging things in higher education, you got to realize there's some things that your professor just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's how I addressed it. And then eventually the student came back about 3 weeks later when it was time to perform, and they said, you know, Professor Henderson, I think what I wanted was not reasonable based upon where I'm at in life. And I said, one of the challenging things about being an adult, regardless of how we classify ourselves, is that sometimes the things that we want and the things that we can do never match and never marry.
There you go. That's it. And that's why what has helped me in this career is the fact that I get emails or phone calls from former students, and there are several that have apologized for their behavior when they were in school, and now understand what I was trying to do in any response that I did, or anything that I did by taking them to festivals or competitions, or trips to New York, classroom, because we in the arts we spend a lot of time with our students in ways that, in ways that are off the grid, because we have to rehearse, we tour sometimes, we perform. So, beyond the classroom space. And so they're able to stay connected in ways where they'll let me know how they're doing. And then we can talk about those things that may have been a sticking point back in the day. And some of them out of the blue, because when they left school, they never wanted to talk to me again. now they're calling.
I had some of those.
Yeah, now they're calling and going, wow. And so you kind of, you kind of hope that once they see the light bulb, that they know that I'm still open to hearing from them, receiving information from them, whether it's an email or a phone call, or a text message now, but the unfortunate thing is, during that moment, they are absolutely right, and we have to sit back, like you said, and have no answer for the thing that they think where they think they are. Like you're saying, sometimes what they want as an adult, they hadn't quite matched up with where they really are. And then having my own children too, I see those, I still have those things happening in my own home where I have to, but unlike the students that I don't have to pay for them later, but my sons, they still got to pay for it.
That's right.
What?
Well, that equity versus equality conversation around how do you deal with all of the current matters in education in the classroom becomes very, very challenging. And it's really about developing a language acumen. And so how can you develop a language acumen and expand that language acumen, but still instruct and meet the core responsibilities of the course the students are taking? That's very, very challenging, because you have laws and you have curriculum, and then you have expectations for the course. And then sometimes, I can't say for you, but for my era, I say sometimes in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, this is some crazy foolishness. You know what? And I don't even want to deal with it. Right. But you know what? I've had to learn over the years to, I don't want to say be more sensitive, but I've had to learn to shut my mouth more.
Oh yeah.
Which may for some of the students seem as though, Professor Henderson was more caring. He is, because I used to be the person in my earlier years, if you would ask me to audition for something, and like I had a young lady who was an alto and wanted to sing a tenor part, I told her I don't do that. But I ended up in a big old lawsuit, and I was like, I ended up in a big old lawsuit over the fact, and it was a lot easier for me just to let the young lady who was an alto audition for this tenor role. But I realized the mistake that I made. Now, I was right, but I was definitely right in my content recommendation. But I could have handled it differently, because when she asked me, I said, oh, no. I don't do that. And so her mother was an attorney. So she was so outraged. We were teaching this. I was singing this spiritual called Daniel, Servant of the Lord by Undine Moore. But the problem was I had one part where the fellas were in 4 parts: tenor 1, tenor 2, baritone, and bass, and I needed some strength on the top tenor role, so I asked one of the altos to dub that one tenor part just to strengthen for about 4 or 5 lines. That's the mistake that I made because when I asked that person to dub that one line, in essence, what I was doing was breaking my own rule. And so then when the young lady came and wanted to audition, and I said no. I mean, this went on for like a whole year. I had to go to hearings and a whole bunch of foolishness.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago, and this was in my semester before I made tenure.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, how in the hell did I end up with this? but I learned from that you have to be very careful in the world of academia in terms of how you answer anything, because the world of academia gives this perception that everything is possible, but in reality it's not. But we promote this concept that the academic space is a space that integrates and welcomes everyone. But in reality, that's not how the world really works. But that's the atmosphere with all these laws that we have to live under.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult and challenging. But like you said, you have to pick and choose your battles, and just not say anything sometimes. I definitely, especially in the age of Instagram and phones being in the classroom, have to be very careful how I say things and what I say, because I don't want them secretly recording me, putting me up on the web. Like, no, that's not what I want to happen. So,
but Professor Minkins, I have just one more question. I such appreciate you. I can tell that you are a real caring and definite man, especially as a professional, and your presence is a very solid one. And so I such respect this interview. I want to ask you just kind of one other question.
Okay.
Please discuss some of your goals, future projects, and share any other thoughts and ideas you would like to communicate.
Goals and future projects. I want to continue to, like you said, as the world is changing and as the rules that we have to, govern ourselves under are changing, I still want to be a champion for those students who maybe didn't find theater or mentor in high school or college or earlier years, and maybe they still had a burning desire to do it. I want to make sure they get a chance to do it, but do it in a way where, let's say they've had a significant break in one sport or another art, like comedy or dance. If they really want to do television, film, or theater, and even if they just want to do television and film, I tell them, come on, let's get the foundation of theater first, and then put you on the screen. Just like I know you guys use classical and classical music, and if you want to sing R&B or hip hop later, your voice will be able to handle it. You'll be equipped to handle it. So
that's right.
So that's my goal, is to continue to help students, be a champion for students of color, especially African American students, and helping them to navigate this tricky entertainment world, because the whole entertainment world is very tricky. And as you you and I know, our professional experiences and the things that had us not, decide we wanted it to be our everyday life, because there are a lot of things out there that are treacherous. But I just want to warn them. I want to be there for them, even if they never go to grad school. But for the ones who could go to grad school, I want them to know it's available to them. And that it is a thing. You can get a graduate degree in theater, and it helps the families when you talk to mamas and daddies who don't understand, and those are the ones, because the FERPA, I can't initiate it. The student has to initiate it, and their parent has to call me with the student's permission if they're going to do that kind of thing. But But when we have those family discussions about their future, I want to be able to, to have a formula for them to follow, so they understand this is the way you do this if you want to do it that way. Future projects, I'm back on the stage acting again. I've done 2 shows back to back for the North Carolina Black Repertory Company. We did a play called Coconut Cake, a world premiere that got a chance to originate a role. And then we did Fences this past February. So I want to continue to act, and I'll be doing a show in the Atlanta Black Theater Festival called Summer Breeze. And so I like doing plays that have history included in the scenarios, but not in a way where the students or audience will find it boring, but find it very interesting. Social commentaries. I want to help playwrights get produced. I want to see what Soul Train, the musical, is coming to Broadway this year, and I've been a part of being, some of the little the baby investors, at least being understanding how Broadway works, and trying to. So I want to be a conduit for that, for shows getting to Broadway, off Broadway. And like I said before, I've done a few films. I want to actually do something significant in the film, and maybe even a TV show. I might even decide to, do a podcast or something on Tubi or something. But, and I've kept my foot in the door at film festivals. I've been an artist or curator, moderator, that kind of thing. So that's what my goals are. And then somebody called me this summer about a book, or a theater book. So I would love to start searching for publishing companies in order to do a book on Black theater, a book on theater in general, but make sure that it helps the student of color to understand how we belong in theater, television, and film. And hopefully the equitable treatment and payment will start. Taraji talked about it. Fantasia, they talk about, Monique, you get a great opportunity here and there, but it's not sometimes a whole career, and getting in how you get paid, and the stories that are being told and how they're told. So I hope to continue to be an advocate for that too, to make sure that we can be seen on the screen in really good light.
Well, Professor Minkins, we met some years ago on LinkedIn, and we talked, and what a delight it was for me to finally meet you.
Yes. I believe we're related somewhere, man, because Henderson is my family name, and my mom's side, one of the family's names on that side, her side. So I see it, man. I see it.
So you know what? Even if we're not related in terms of blood, we're related in terms of creativity and the heart. I love you very much, brother. I appreciate your time. I honor your family, your children, and all of your work and all that you've done. And you got to let me know when one of your productions come. So I may have to go on the plane to come and see you. I may have to become your promoter, because I need something else to do.
I would love it. I would love it, because I know you are good at it. Your career has had, I've seen the excellence. I've heard about the excellence, and I welcome any participation in my career.
Well, listen, you be blessed, remain blessed, and continue to hug that wonderful family, and let those students know that you are a jewel. Even when they get mad, you let them know, well, there's a guy who thinks I'm all that. And he's a well-known academic, but he honors me, and I want you to honor me. Send them to me. I'll get a switch and spank them for you.
Thank you, my brother.
All right, God bless you now. Bye-bye now.
All right.